My female boss showed up at my hotel room at 2 a.m. with wine. What she said changed everything. The knock at 2 a.m. Marcus Hale had learned a long time ago that life didn't care about your plans. It didn't care that he had a 7-year-old daughter named Lily who still slept with a nightlight. It didn't care that he hadn't been on a date in 3 years. And it definitely didn't care that he was the only single dad in a department full of ambitious, career-obsessed professionals at one of Chicago's most aggressive marketing firms, Sterling & Cross. What life did care about, apparently, was irony. Because at exactly 2:04 in the morning, in a hotel room in downtown Atlanta during the company's annual leadership retreat, someone knocked on Marcus's door. He almost didn't answer it. He'd been lying on top of the hotel duvet fully dressed, laptop open, reviewing the quarterly pitch deck he was supposed to present in 6 hours. His tie was loosened. His jacket was thrown across the chair. His eyes were burning from screen glare and too much bad conference coffee. Knock, knock, knock. Soft, almost hesitant. Marcus sat up. He checked his phone. Nothing from Lily's babysitter, which meant his daughter was fine. He crossed the room and looked through the peephole, and his stomach dropped straight to the floor. It was Vanessa Cole, his boss, the regional director of marketing for Sterling & Cross, the woman who had hired him 4 years ago when he was a grieving widower with a toddler and a resume full of gaps. The woman who ran Monday morning meetings like a military briefing and wore confidence like a second skin. She was standing in the hallway in a green satin dress, the same one she'd worn to the company dinner 3 hours ago, holding a bottle of wine against her chest. Her long blonde hair was slightly looser than it had been at dinner, and her expression, visible even through the fisheye lens of a peephole, was one Marcus had never seen on her face before. Uncertain. He opened the door. For a second, neither of them spoke. Vanessa looked at him, at his loosened tie, his tired eyes, and something flickered across her face, almost like she was reconsidering, almost like she was about to turn around and walk back down that hallway and pretend this never happened. But she didn't. "Can I come in?" she said. Her voice was quiet. "We need to talk." Marcus stepped back and held the door open. She didn't sit down right away. She stood near the window, the Atlanta skyline glittering behind her, and turned the wine bottle over in her hands like she didn't know what to do with it. "I brought this from the dinner," she said, nodding at the bottle. "I wasn't sure if that was weird." "It's 2 a.m., Marcus said carefully. "I think we're past worrying about weird." That made her almost smile. Almost. He found 2 glasses on the minibar, real glasses, not the plastic cups wrapped in paper, and set them on the table between them. She poured. He sat across from her. And then there was silence, the kind that has weight to it, the kind that means something is about to shift. "I owe you an apology," Vanessa said finally. Marcus hadn't expected that. For what? She looked at him directly. That was one thing about Vanessa Cole. She never looked away when she had something hard to say. He'd always respected that about her, even when what she was saying was difficult to hear. "The Morrison account," she said. "I gave it to Derek." Marcus was quiet. The Morrison account was the biggest client Sterling & Cross had landed in 2 years. It was the kind of project that got people promoted. Marcus had spent 6 weeks building the strategy for it. He'd come in early, stayed late, on the nights when Lily's babysitter could stay, and poured everything he had into that pitch. 3 weeks ago, Vanessa had walked into his office and told him the account was being reassigned. No real explanation. Just a decision. Derek Voss, who had been with the company 8 months and had never managed anything above a mid-tier regional campaign, got the account instead. Marcus had nodded, said he understood, gone home and sat in Lily's room after she fell asleep, staring at the ceiling and wondering if he was fooling himself thinking he could build a career and raise a daughter at the same time. "I know," he said now. "You didn't deserve that," Vanessa said. "Your strategy was better. It was honestly the best pitch I've seen come through this office in years." "Then why?" "Because Derek's uncle is on the Morrison board." She said it flat, no softening. "It was political. I didn't make the call. It came from above me. And I should have told you that. I should have explained instead of just delivering the verdict and walking away." Marcus looked at his wine glass. "You could have told me." "I know," she exhaled. "I was a coward. It was easier to be your boss than to be honest with you." She paused. "It's usually easier to be your boss." Something in the way she said that made him look up. Vanessa was watching him with an expression that was careful and open at the same time, the kind of expression people wear when they're deciding whether to step off a ledge. "Marcus," she said, "how long have you worked for me?" 4 years. 4 years. She nodded slowly. "Do you know what I've watched you do in 4 years? You raised a little girl alone. You built campaigns that outperformed projections by 30%. You showed up to every single team event, every retreat, every early morning call, and you never once complained, even when you had every right to." She shook her head. "You made it look easy, and I kept piling more on you because I knew you could handle it." "I could handle it," he said. "I know you could." She looked at him. "That's not the point. The point is that I never once stopped to ask you if you wanted to." The room was very quiet. Outside, Atlanta hummed its late-night hum. Somewhere down the hall, a door closed softly. "I've been thinking about this for a while," Vanessa continued. "About the way I've managed you. About the way I've kept everything between us strictly professional. Even when—" She stopped, started again. "Even when that wasn't the whole truth." Marcus didn't move. "I'm your boss," she said. "I know that. I've never forgotten it, not for a single second. And I'm not here to make things complicated or uncomfortable for you. That's not why I knocked on your door at 2 in the morning." She gave a short, self-conscious laugh. "Though I realize this is probably the definition of complicated." "What are you saying, Vanessa?" She met his eyes. "I'm saying that I think you're extraordinary, and I've been hiding behind a title to avoid admitting that." She set down her wineglass. "I'm also saying that effective Monday I've recommended you for the senior director position that's opening in the New York office." Marcus stared at her. "What?" "It's a promotion, a real one, not a consolation prize. You'd be running your own department, your own team, reporting directly to the executive board." She held his gaze. "You've earned it 3 times over. The fact that it took me this long to push for it is on me." For a long moment, Marcus couldn't speak. He thought about Lily, about the nightlight, about all the mornings he'd packed a school lunch at 6 a.m. before jumping on an early call, about the birthday party he'd missed for a client presentation, and how Lily had saved him a piece of cake in a Ziploc bag with a bow on it, left it on his keyboard when he finally got home, about every single moment he'd wondered if he was enough. "New York," he said slowly. "It's a big ask," she said. "I know you'd have to think about it. About Lily, about schools, about everything. There's no pressure and no timeline. I wanted you to know it was there, that you were seen." She paused. "That I see you." Marcus looked at her for a long moment. "Why did you come here tonight?" he asked quietly. "You could have told me all of this in a meeting, in an email, in literally any professional setting." Vanessa was quiet for a beat. "Because I've been doing everything in professional settings for 4 years," she said. "And tonight, I just wanted to be honest with you. Not as your boss." She looked at him carefully. "Just as someone who has a lot of respect for you. And maybe something more than that, if we're being completely honest at 2 in the morning." The silence that followed was the kind that doesn't ask you to fill it. It just sits and breathes and waits. Marcus looked at the woman across from him, the woman who had given him a chance when he'd had very little to offer except determination, who had pushed him and challenged him and, apparently, protected him in ways he hadn't even known about, who was sitting in his hotel room at 2 a.m., dressed slightly rumpled, holding a wineglass, being more vulnerable than he'd ever seen her. "I have a daughter," he said. "I know. She's my whole world. I know that too." Vanessa's voice was gentle. "That's one of the reasons I respect you so much." He nodded slowly. "The New York thing, I'd need time to think. Of course. And the other thing you said." He looked at her. "I'd need time for that too." Something shifted in her expression. Not disappointment, something quieter, something like relief that it hadn't been a flat no. "That's fair," she said. She stood and he stood with her. She picked up the wine bottle, looked at it, and then set it back on the table. "Leave it," he said, "for the morning." She smiled, a real one this time, not the boardroom smile, not the managing director smile. A real, unguarded smile that changed her whole face. "Good night, Marcus." "Good night, Vanessa." He closed the door softly behind her. Then he stood in the middle of the hotel room for a long time, the Atlanta skyline glowing behind him, his pitch deck forgotten on the bed. He picked up his phone and opened his photos. A picture of Lily from last week. Gap-toothed grin, paint on her chin, holding up a drawing she'd made of the two of them. Underneath it she'd written in wobbly letters, "Me and Daddy. Best team." He smiled. Then he set down the phone, poured himself a little more wine, and sat by the window. He had a lot to think about, and for the first time in a long time, thinking about the future didn't feel heavy. It felt like possibility. Sometimes the knock you don't expect is the one that opens the right door.